Hey, what's up, everybody? BDL44 coming at you with another video. I don't know about how the rest of y'all feel, Laker fans, but this game is taking too long to come on, man. I've never been more in. I haven't anticipated a basketball game like this in a very, very, very long time. I don't remember any game this season, any game previous to, not even in the Western Conference Finals last year or any of them. I didn't care as much as I do right now. If this didn't do anything, it created a certain level of urgency. I don't know if that's the right word, although it's definitely there. Anxiousness, I guess, about basketball, Laker basketball, that I don't think I felt in a long time, man. I don't remember the last time, really. I mean, you want to see the game, right? But it's like 3:30, and I wish the game started at 5. I can't. Probably not as a grown man have I felt this way. Where I'm just looking around like, man, the clock needs to speed up. When you're my age, you definitely don't want the clock to speed up, but I'm ready to see what the team is going to do in Game 5, man. I really am. I want to see what they're going to do. I want to see what their intentions are. I want to see if they're mailing it in, or are they as serious about it as they were in Game 4. And if they're serious about it as they were in Game 4, I call me crazy, but I think we're going to play well. Now, if that leads to us winning, great. But I expect us to play well. And I know I have a lot of evidence against that, but when you overcome something like we just overcame, beating a team finally after losing 11 straight to them, and they won the championship and had to go through us to get it and all of that other stuff, they calling us Laker Daddy, I legitimately feel we deserve to win. I believe we deserve to win. With the disrespect that has come our way, with all that has come with losing to this team as much, they call themselves Laker Daddy and such, we deserve to win. Now, whether or not that's going to translate to us doing so is up to the fellas and the basketball gods, but we deserve to win. If any team I would love to see us come back on in this fashion, if ever there was a series where I felt like we went down 0-3 and then we won a game and suddenly it feels like we could do something special, it would be against the people who disrespected us like these guys. Mike Malone has given me every reason to be unhappy with the Denver Nuggets as a fan, as a Laker fan. As many times as I found myself as a young person or as a kid hating teams, Sacramento Kings, Utah Jazz, Portland Trail Blazers, so many different teams over the years that I genuinely despised. Boston Celtics, obviously. Some of the teams we went up against I really didn't hate. Like San Antonio, I never actually hated them. They just irritated me, and I hated seeing them in the finals because I thought the finals were usually boring if they were a part of it, to be honest with you. And I was right, because most of them finals they were a part of were boring to me. But I didn't hate them. And they didn't give me a reason to hate them. They just gave me a reason to be frustrated playing them. It was difficult. I respected them. Many teams I didn't like over the years, man. The ones that I named were the ones I hated the most. Sacramento, Utah, Portland. I hated those teams so much when I was a kid. They gave us a lot of trouble. We usually overcame them, or they didn't win anything, one or the other. So that was the good thing about hating those specific teams. But you know, as the years have progressed, I found myself irritated with teams like Dallas Mavericks during the Dirk era. I didn't hate them, but they irritated me because it seemed like they never missed. Like literally never missed. And inside the Phoenix Suns, we had a lot of trouble with the 7 seconds or less Phoenix. So I wasn't a fan of them. I know a lot of people hate the Warriors, but I never thought we crossed paths with the Golden State Warriors in a way that made us respect them. Although, truth be told, the bad Warrior team that was like Monte Ellis and Anton Jameson, they gave us a lot of trouble year in and year out. They just weren't a good team at all, but they would run into us and play well against us, and we would have some of our more memorable games against those Golden State Warriors with the Kobe and Shaq era. But like as far as like the Golden State Warriors of modern era, the Golden State that everybody today knows, I never had a reason to hate them. For one, I couldn't stand LeBron's teams, and they were seeing him in the finals every year, so I was likely rooting for them to win, to be honest with you. So when they first got started, I was happy to see them win. So it was never real hatred. I just got irritated with them over the years. And of course, we've had to see them over the last couple of years here and there, and it's become a little more of a rivalry to me. But as far as the hate for the Golden State Warriors, they never did nothing to me. We're just never really that great at the same time. If we were good, they weren't any good. If they were winning, we were trash. So, like, that's just how it's been with them. Detroit, I've always said I want to see Detroit in the finals again. I want my lick back in my lifetime. But I don't know if Detroit's ever going to get there again, to be honest with you. But I would love to see the Lakers in the finals again before it's over. Of course, the Celtics, just inherently, I inherited that beef. But to be honest with you, I didn't see a whole lot over the years that make me hate the Celtics until we saw them in 08 and 10. I missed most of the Celtics-Laker rivalry. I just knew to hate them naturally. But when, like I told people in a video not too long ago, when I first started watching the NBA, the Celtics and the Nuggets were the two worst teams in the league. When I remember my very first time looking at the standings, really absorbing what the standings look like with interest, those were the teams at the bottom. So hating the Celtics just came naturally to me as a Laker fan, but I didn't have a whole lot of memories until I got older that would make me ultimately could hate them. So, with that being said, the Nuggets are a team that I really can't stand now. As a grown man, I like Jokic. I like Murray. But their coach makes it exactly what it is for me. Mike Malone and some of the rhetoric that's come out of his mouth has put a target on him in regards to myself. I'm definitely looking forward to beating him wherever he goes. Even if he doesn't end up a Nuggets coach and he goes to another team, I'm going to want us to beat the hell out of him there too. It's the same thing I feel about the Clippers. Of course, I didn't mention the Clippers, but that's how far away from relevant they are to my mind. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I thought of all these teams, the Clippers never came into play. They just irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. They're not a rival. They never rivaled us in any way. They never caused any trouble to us as it pertains to in the standings or anything. They went on their little streak of winning in the regular season, but even when Kawhi did what he did, to be honest with you, it was like we still went on and won the championship that year. He was the one looking stupid. He was the one with egg on his face. It's like their karma just continues to kick their behind. They never really get too far, so it's not really an issue. The Clippers are a team I can't stand, but not as it pertains to them doing anything to the Lakers. They could never touch us. Like, they were always down there somewhere, and they were always throwing rocks up at us, and it was always kind of funny. That's kind of how I look at the Clippers these days. They're not even worth too much conversation, to be honest with you. But, like, as far as the Denver Nuggets, like, I genuinely want to beat the hell out of them, for real. Like, if ever there was a coach specifically that deserved to have a 0-3 deficit overturned by the team he disrespected, it's Mike Malone versus us. He really deserves that. You know what I mean? He genuinely deserves that. And this is somebody who used to coach LeBron James, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was an assistant coach with him back in either Miami or Cleveland. I don't know which. But, like, for him to be on that type of train, to call himself Laker Daddy, it's a level of disrespect that I really want responded to. And I think it would be so very kind of the basketball gods to allow us to be the only team to ever come back from 0-3 to beat this specific team for this specific reason. It's been extremely disrespectful to us, man. Extremely. Players haven't. I'm not gonna lie, Jokic is as humble as Tim Duncan, man. I got no bad thoughts about Jokic at all. Really, none. And I like Jamal Murray, even though he continues to kill us. It's all fair. I don't think he's done a whole lot to make me dislike him at all. Porter and those guys, I don't have a problem with them dudes like that, but it's their coach who did it. He did it. And their fans, who are heavily disrespectful as well. Followers, just like any other fan base is gonna say, "Who's your daddy?" You've earned nothing. You've earned nothing. So that's what I want to say to Denver Nuggets fans. You've earned nothing, man. You won one championship in a year where the path was easy. My superstars had foot problems. You played a Miami Heat team that was depleted, didn't have a good roster. I mean, it's not like you ran into nothing real. You ran into a Minnesota team without Nas Reed and McDaniels. I mean, y'all ain't. Nah. Let's just be honest about that Denver Nugget run. They were good. They beat who was in front of them, but they had an easy path, friends, full of injuries and depleted basketball rosters. So that's the reality of what the Denver Nuggets did last year. And so yeah, man, I'm still the odds are still against us. Probably most people probably expect us to lose tonight's game. All of that's fine, whatever. I'm not saying I'm betting us to win. I'm just saying it would be very, very kind if we took this game from them and then forced them to come on a plane back to Los Angeles for Game 6. I really genuinely hope that somehow that is how this goes. Mike Malone deserves that. I really believe that. So yeah, that's my thoughts, man. I'm just ready for this game to start. I left you guys a Laker, pregame video for this game earlier today, and of course I made a video right after that, about an hour later. And I encourage you guys to check that out, see what some of my pointers are, my thoughts. But right now I'm just filled with anxiousness. We're about 3 hours away from tip-off or something like that, and it couldn't come soon enough. And I just hope my team comes out there and plays hard and doesn't lay an egg, man, because it'll really be a huge letdown for the anticipation of this particular game, man. This is not the game to come out and fall flat or just be lackluster or make us hate you for bad rotations. This is not that type of game at all. I really want my team to have fight, and if we go down swinging, but don't go down rolling over. Don't go down rolling over is what I really want my team not to do. So yeah, man. Yeah, that's what it is, man. I wonder what some of your teams are that you hated, man. I'm curious to know. A lot of people hated different teams than I did because we grew up in different eras. So that's what it is. By the time I was a grown man, hating teams didn't feel the same way. It just wasn't that serious. You want to win a basketball game, but you wish for the best. But when I was a kid, Karl Malone, I couldn't stand Karl Malone, yo. I hated Karl Malone. As much as anybody ever played the game, I couldn't stand that man. I made peace with him when he put on number 11 and played for our team. But all throughout my growing up, I could not stand that man. I could not stand it. Who else, man? There's a few others. Everybody on that Portland team from 2000. Just about everybody on that team. I ain't like Scottie Pippen. I like Rasheed Wallace. But Arvydas Sabonis, I couldn't stand none of them dudes, man. Couldn't stand them. Sacramento, Utah, Portland. Those were my teams of choice. Hey, I used to tell people that Portland was owned by the devil. I was serious too. I was like, look at the Sixers that they have on the middle of their floor. It's an evil team. I was so serious, I wasn't kidding at all. They're owned by the devil, and we need to beat them every time we see them because of it. I really had that in mind when I was like 12, 13 years old. Like, I believed it. Yeah. So yeah, man, that's how real it is. That's why I want people to understand. Like, when I say I'm a Laker fan, are you wondering if I'm gonna jump teams if that's ever crossed anyone's mind? Like, no, man. I suffered the Sacre era, Kendall Marshall, Troy Murphy, all of that. I was there for all of that. I didn't go anywhere when the team was bad. Xavier Henry. We had some rosters here that was so bad. Smush Parker. Although I didn't think he was actually that bad of a player, to be honest with you. I really didn't. Vladimir Radmanovic. God, I couldn't stand him. The way that he played in the finals against Boston in 2008, I really genuinely at the time blamed him for why we couldn't win. I just thought he was awful down there in that series. Really awful. And I never forgave him for that. So yeah, that's how far back it goes, man. There were players on my own team I didn't like either. Some of the years that we had, as I said, a few names. But even when I was a kid, I wasn't a fan of Sean Rooks. Rest in peace, Sean Rooks. I wasn't a fan of him as a child. Who else, man? There's somebody else that came to mind just now. It disappeared just as quick as it came. Brian Cook. I wasn't a fan of Brian Cook's game. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being honest. As a kid, I had my biases about who I wanted on the roster. There were certain players I wanted to be here so bad and never showed up. Like Kevin Garnett, I wanted to be a Laker real bad. I wanted Jason Kidd. I wanted Chris Paul that year when we thought we were getting him. You know, some things just never manifested into what they should have been. Tracy McGrady, at one point, I was thinking Tracy may become a Laker, but I was kind of a Tracy hater, to be honest with you. I learned to respect Tracy McGrady's game, like, recently, basically, because as a kid, I didn't get it. I just didn't get it. I understood that he was really good, but he just couldn't get out of the first round, always injured with the back, and a lot of what he did best, I just wasn't watching. And then people were comparing him to Kobe, say he was a better scorer than Kobe. That was a problem for me. I wasn't feeling none of that. But, you know, Tracy was great. I definitely saw that Houston game live. I do remember what he did for Houston with that erasing a 9-point deficit in like a minute or something like that. He hit like a bunch of threes in a short flurry. That's when I learned, like, okay, this is a very special player. But I was hopeful he could team up with Kobe because I know that they were homies at one point. You know, so... yeah, man, just certain things. I was very happy with Gary Payton when he got here, but he was later in his prime. But I always wanted Gary to be a Laker when he was with the Seattle Sonics. That's another team that I was not a fan of. The Sonics used to really give us trouble, man. I don't know if people remember the Sonics when they had Sean Kemp and then they traded him for Vin Baker. Those were some tough years going up against that team. Ray Allen. Yeah, that was tough. I really hated going up against the Sonics a lot. That was tough. We used to lose to them a lot, especially in Seattle. Bring back the Sonics. So yeah, man, that's what comes to mind, man. It's teams I couldn't stand. Cleveland Cavaliers, the Miami Heat. Hated both of them teams, man. I'm sorry, Bron. I hated both your teams, bro. I really did. I hated them teams so much. Every time they were going against anybody, I was rooting against them unless it was the Celtics. But anytime Bron went up against Orlando, I was going for Orlando. Anytime the Cleveland Cavaliers went up against the Warriors, I was going for the Warriors. I just was a hater, man. I really was. I didn't learn to appreciate Bron until he got here, man. To be honest with you. I really didn't. I always hated Cleveland. Why? Because I had a coworker at the ESPN Zone that was a major Cleveland fan. She used to always talk head. She hated Kobe. She hated Kobe. She was one of them ones that ran around saying the R word in regards to Kobe. Anytime she saw him, she was trying to hold him accountable for what she thought was R word. And so it was a vitriol there. I really disliked that about that situation. And she would always throw LeBron in our face and this, that, and the third. So that kind of manifested a lot of anger there. Just in general, every time I saw the Cleveland Cavaliers, it was like this. You know, that kind of look. Every time the Cavs was on, I had a problem. But that one year when Bron was stuck with him and Dellavedova, I actually did feel bad for Bron. I was like, man, him and Dellavedova are going crazy out here. If only they had the rest of their team, they would be doing it. I liked Kyrie Irving, but more so after he left Cleveland too. I wasn't really able to appreciate Kyrie until he got the hell out of there. Until he left Boston, really, to be honest with you. I'm more a fan of Kyrie the person than Kyrie the basketball player because he was always playing for teams I couldn't root for. Yeah, now that I think about it, I didn't really ever root for Kai because he was either on Cleveland, he was on Boston. That Brooklyn team I thought was a damn joke. I think I could finally root for him a little bit now, Dallas, but I was always a fan of the player and the person, but not any of the teams he was on, if that makes any sense. Yeah, that's the real truth. But just looking back on it, man, it just fast forwards me to where we are right now. And that is a team that called himself Laker Daddy has a 3-1 lead on us after beating us 11 straight times. It definitely makes you nostalgic about all of those moments leading up to this that you remember as a child when you had teams you hated. None of them called themselves a Laker Daddy. And the main reason why that was is because we would never let it be. We had players on our team that would never let that happen. Shaq and Kobe would never let that happen. Powell would never let that happen. So it's on Bron and AD to make them eat those words tonight. I want that to be as much of a factor in playing well tonight as any other factor. As any other situation, including not one of your season in. You really got to make them pay for that, man. That's what I want to say to everybody in the uniform. So hopefully they play well tonight, man. We'll see. We're not favored. I'm not delusional, but I am aware. And if you look at some of those videos that I left you guys, you'll see exactly why I have the confidence I do that this team should be able to win tonight's game. So I encourage you to watch that. And for now, BDL44, I thank y'all for watching. Out.